Hey, Dan, thank you so much for coming on Startup Steward today and telling us about Goldfish, not the snack, but the company. So we'll talk about the company in just a minute. But first, start us off with your background a little bit. Tell me sort of how you got started.
Cool, thanks. I'm born and bred South African. After school, I ended up in the United Kingdom, and I served in the Royal Marine Commandos as an officer for 7 years. Multiple deployments overseas after the 2001 period, so spent a lot of time overseas. After that, after leaving the military after 7 years, I got into the private security industry, spent a lot of my time around Africa and the Middle East doing security risk management for large multinational oil companies, and spent a good sort of 10, 12 years of my sort of later career working for the oil companies, looking after travel risk management, physical security, crisis management for those companies. And a lot of that involved training, awareness, and sort of helping those companies sort of protect their people and protect their businesses. You know, one of my team members in the Commandos, Sharif Gardner, after leaving at a similar time, we both went into the private industry together, and he quite quickly actually ended up in the cybersecurity space. And really after around 2015, 2016, he contacted me and said, listen, this industry, this security industry, the cyberspace is blowing up and getting extremely interesting, and we need to look at getting involved. And how we can get in there. And so we very quickly sort of assessed the industry, saw our skills and what we could bring to bear and what we could offer. And with both of our sort of corporate backgrounds running risk management for enterprise-sized businesses, we quickly saw a niche that we could offer without having a technical background in cyber. And so we looked at going down the route of education and training and behavioral change modeling, and really building out a solution to do that. And that's how GoldPhish was born.
Fantastic. Such a great story. I want to dig into it a lot more. Can you talk about the security work that you were doing before the company? So, I don't know if you can necessarily discuss as part of your service, but I'm really curious as to what kind of services you were providing with the multinationals.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we worked. I worked for a number of oil majors and oil service companies for many years. Worked all over West Africa, protecting their organizations. Really, just doing a lot of consulting, advisory, security project management, both on the anti-piracy side and onshore as well. West Africa, we dealt with a number of large physical security problems and crisis events, employees getting kidnapped, needing to recover them, piracy attacks on offshore assets. And then after West Africa, moved into the Middle East, spent quite a bit of time in Iraq working for the oil companies there. Worked quite a bit of time in Yemen as well, which is a very interesting environment to be working. And really dealing with a number of issues and problems, protecting daily operations on the oil fields, dealing with tribal disputes, dealing with all sorts of issues. I was actually on the ground in Iraq when ISIS invaded Iraq, from Syria.
Oh, wow.
Back in the day, and we ended up having to close some of the oil fields down, evacuate some people out. So I've managed quite a lot of country evacuations of oil workers. I've evacuated teams out of Iraq, out of Yemen. I ran the evacuations for Libya when the country fell into chaos there. We had oil workers out there. So a lot of sort of high profile crisis management work, as well as the sort of day-to-day stuff. And then, I looked after sort of travel management and travel security for a lot of the oil executives as well. And a lot of that involved a lot of education and awareness training and sort of helping them understand the parts of the world that they were traveling to, how to stay safe, how to avoid danger, And we're constantly taking teams and executives through that type of training to reduce their personal risk. So my exposure and my sort of understanding of the cyber risk side of things really came quite late in my career. But one of the oil companies that I was working for had a huge cyber attack in 2016, I would say, 2016, 2017, took multinational company off the grid for 7 days, absolutely crippled
Wow.
them. They lost millions of dollars to a huge ransomware attack. And that was really a large exposure to myself. And that was down to a phishing attack.
Wow.
A very, very basic, they spent millions of dollars on technical cyber controls. But a
Right.
simple opening and clicking on an email brought the company to a standstill for 7 days. It was
Incredible.
phenomenal. That was really my first sort of major exposure to actually all the work that I did protecting employees in high risk places. I'd never seen anything bring a business to its knees like a cyber attack had. And so very quickly
Right.
realized that there was huge importance in that industry and huge importance in helping businesses protect their people from cyber attackers and protect their businesses.
Right. Right. Tell me a little bit about, you mentioned your co-founder, Sharif. Was he with you throughout this journey as well? And what kind of roles was he playing in the service?
So Sharif served with me in the UK military. We served overseas together on the teams. After that, he went into the private security industry, but really focusing on the maritime side of things. So was
Okay.
doing a lot of anti-piracy operations off the Horn of Africa. Spent a few years doing that. And his company that he was actually working for, he then ended up writing a number of educational courses for that company. And they then opened a cybersecurity arm, a cybersecurity wing. And he actually got recruited from his training background to sort of move into that and help them write cyber training courses. He then ended up heading up one of the largest cybersecurity academies in the UK and writing their full program there for that company. Quite soon after that, after he sort of had his intro into cybersecurity and had almost like his internship into cybersecurity, he got recruited or headhunted by a large cyber insurance company in the UK. And that was subsequently acquired by Axis Capital, a large US underwriter. Sharif now heads up a cyber training team for Axis Capital that really travel internationally, training up brokers around the world on cyber insurance, how to underwrite the risk, how to understand the risk, how to understand cybersecurity measures for brokers trying to sell insurance, and for insurance policyholders to better understand.
So I love your both of your stories, and I think Sharif working in the industry is a phenomenal thing as far as supporting the company. You also have Zoe working with you, right? Who Sharif and Zoe are essentially married. So, what is her role? Tell me a little bit about her background and her role.
Yeah, so Zoe has a background in digital marketing and graphic design. She, before GoldPhish, owned a successful digital marketing agency, and has numerous years working both for the private sector and public sector, running campaigns and digital marketing there. So really from day one, we had that asset and capability in the organization, not only to run all of our marketing and build our brand, but the graphic design piece was huge for us. We are essentially a creative company. In everything that we do, we need to get across really engaging as attractive and beautiful content as we can. Our content is everything from our awareness campaigns and all the materials that we offer for that, to our online courses and our videos and everything that we produce to really help train and educate, and creativity and design is fundamental to that. So Zoe from day one was really a critical team member for GoldPhish, and she's been with us from day one.
Fantastic, fantastic. So right now, tell me. let's move up a little bit and tell me about, around 2016 when you started GoldPhish. What was the initial problem that you were trying to solve, and what was that initial solution like?
Yeah, so the initial problem that we try to solve when we first kicked off and wanted to get our foot in the market was a lack of great content. There was some basic cybersecurity awareness training out there. We had experienced it in some of the large multinationals very, very early on. Very few companies were offering training to their employees, and those companies that were, it was maybe death by PowerPoint, or it was some really awful e-learning, attempt at educating about, basic email security. So we identified a huge lack in decent training. And what we realized as well very early on is that the majority of training out there was a once-off, once-a-year compliance training, tick in the box. No companies really were offering decent quality training that was engaging and sticky and could really get a message across and truly change behavior. So our first attempt, our first sort of product that we took to market was actually a content-only approach. So we designed a number of modules and animation videos that we could then offer to companies to then use on their own learning management systems, or we partnered with a number of training providers who could then license our content out. And we really had that on the market for about 6 months, 12 months, until we very quickly realized that a huge demand coming from the market was for the learning platform itself and the ability to deliver that training, because a lot of companies didn't have their own learning management systems. They needed a system to deliver it to their employees. They needed a system to measure training progress and track scores and get behavior and trends back from the platform. And another sort of feature that was coming out quite early was the ability to test your employees on what they've learned. And that was done through two key ways. It was done through knowledge assessments or quizzes. And another way to do that was through simulated phishing assessments or simulated phishing attacks, where you could actually create a fake phishing email and send that out to your organization and be able to monitor how they react to that and whether they click on it, whether they open it, whether they follow the links, all this sort of stuff. And the system, the phishing simulator, can actually measure all of that and let the security manager, let the IT manager know how vulnerable his organization is to phishing. So we identified quite early on that was a demand coming from a lot of our customers, a lot of our partners coming from the industry. And we then pivoted away from being a content-only solution into delivering the full spectrum of it.
Fantastic. So that initially, you said that was only about 6 to 12 months. Then once you got into the platform idea, we're talking about 2017, 2018 timeframe. Is that right?
We launched the platform at the end of 2017.
Perfect. Okay. So tell me what that initial reception was like and what kind of feedback were you getting from the market?
Sure. The initial reception we got was really based around our content. The platform was great. People were happy to use it. It was well received, but the content we were getting was fantastic. We actually had an early strategic partnership with one of the big cybersecurity companies, Trend Micro. And they loved our content. They were launching their own training and phishing platform. But that was really going to be predominantly for their enterprise customers, the Trend Micro existing customers that were using Trend products, and they wanted to offer them a training solution, exclusive to those customers. And they needed content for it. Trend Micro didn't want to build their own content, so they did a partnership with GoldPhish and a number of other training vendors. And which was great to see in the sort of early days, that the GoldPhish content was, hands down the most popular chosen content by the customers on the platform for Trend. And so Trend Micro were extremely happy with that partnership, and we made some really great early revenue through that. But a great way to partner and really understand sort of feedback on the product and see the quality of our content. So it was really good to gauge that. So we had that sort of revenue stream coming in from the content. And then the platform as well was quite early. We started launching in the sort of South Africa and Southern Africa region, and quickly realized that actually in the cybersecurity space, and certainly selling, what we were wanting to sell, building up a network from the ground up and trying to sell into the cyber market was going to be quite tricky because of how relationships work in that space. And the companies that were currently selling cyber products, whether they were technical products or consulting products or whatever they were, these were based on a long time of quite trusted relationships, because we're dealing with quite a sensitive subject of cybersecurity. And what we then decided to do was go after a go-to-market strategy of finding managed service providers or managed security service providers who were already providing a range of services to companies and managing their security services, managing their IT services. But they were looking to offer training as well as an additional service to their portfolio. And then we would then partner with those companies, and they could then offer GoldPhish training as part of their service portfolio. And we started seeing some really nice traction for that. What that allowed us to do as well, as a very small team at the time, we didn't have dedicated sales staff as well. So what it allowed us to do was really shift the responsibility of sales to those partners. They already had their networks, they had dedicated sales teams, and now they were actively selling our product into their existing networks where they had the relationships already. So we started seeing some early traction across Southern Africa, and a few clients in the UK as well. And then that just started to grow. We started to build our brand out a bit. We started to grow our partner networks. 2019 had us double in revenue from the year before. And then 2020, we could afford to bring on 3 new team members. We had a dedicated sales manager, dedicated head of content design to really look after that. And we had a dedicated graphic designer come on as well to take a lot of that work off Zoe. And, with that, what we then started producing and what we could then take to market, at the end of 2020, we had increased our partner network by 500%. And we'd spread our partner network of managed service providers into Asia, into Europe, into the USA, and into Australia as well. And again, all of that without funding. So, we saw a great climb in revenue for 2020 from 2019.
That's fantastic. It seems like you guys are on a really sort of a good trajectory here. One thing I realized is that we're using a lot of these words, which some investors who might not be well versed in this technology might not necessarily understand. So let's very quickly define them. You obviously use the word phishing. So let's discuss that. When we're talking about training people, what kind of training are we talking about, and then testing? I want to make sure we go through all those 3 things so we can sort of understand what your offering actually is.
Sure. So one of the key ways, businesses out there today in 2021 are spending a lot of money on protecting their business from cybercrime. Everybody knows that cybersecurity is an issue now. Cyber attacks have been in the media, left, right, and center. Government organizations, private organizations have fallen foul, and they're losing data. Their systems are getting shut down. They're losing business. It's a huge problem, and people are starting to wake up to the problem. Businesses are starting to spend a lot of money on protecting themselves, but the vast majority of that spend is on technical products. It's on your antivirus systems. It's on your monitoring systems. It's on your scanning systems. It's all about the network and the data and the servers and protecting the email system. So people know how to spend money on that. What cyber criminals are now doing is they're recognizing that. They're seeing how difficult it is now actually to hack into companies because they can't get through these firewalls. They can't get through these antivirus systems. And so what they're doing is they're bypassing the technical controls. And if I'm a cyber criminal, instead of me trying to hack into your server through your firewalls and through your antivirus, I'm just going to put together a simple email, and I'm going to script that email based on some very rudimentary knowledge of your organization and perhaps yourself. I'll research you on LinkedIn. I'll find a couple links that I can find. I'll draft an email to you. And in the email, I can either have an attachment that has malicious software or a virus attached to it, or I can embed a link into that email, which could then take you to a website that is embedded, or that has malware embedded into that website. So as soon as you arrive on that website, it downloads malware into your computer. Or alternatively, I could do a complete fake link into a website like your Outlook or your bank, and you'll get to then a landing page of your bank, and the landing page will then ask for your login details, but it's actually a web page controlled by myself. So as soon as you put in your username and your password, I'm into your accounts, and then I can use that. And that essentially is phishing. It's a way for cyber criminals to manipulate users into giving them information or taking an action that they wouldn't normally do. And it's really the world of social engineering. It's the world of manipulating humans in different scams and different tricks that they use to bypass the technical systems.
Really interesting. And this is a very scary stuff, because before, cyber criminals were focused on the technology part, like you said, weaknesses in your IT infrastructure. Now they've moved on to the human part, and making sure your team is ready for those kinds of attacks is the next frontier. So that's really what you're targeting. When you say now, when you contract with a company, you obviously have to test them first, then train them, and then test them again. What does that process look like? How do you actually test people? Tell me about that idea.
So there's really two ways that we can test people. We can, and a lot of the companies, it's really entirely up to the companies. We provide the platform that allows them to run any type of training campaign, any type of program. We provide all the tools and the materials to put together really successful campaigns, and I can get onto exactly what we provide there. But ultimately, how they structure their training program is up to them, and we advise them, and we can give them best practice. But one of the best ways to really launch an effective training program is to get a baseline measure of the level of knowledge of your organization or your level of vulnerability to social engineering. So we can do that in two ways. Firstly, we can create a baseline knowledge assessment. So we can send a whole lot of questions out to the users. What do you know about phishing? What do you know about social engineering? Here's some questions about passwords. And we can get a very quick understanding for what level of knowledge exists in the organization. And we can then structure training around that. There's no point in teaching everybody the very, very basics. If actually it's quite a tech savvy organization and they know a lot already, you can then structure your training accordingly. The other way to get a baseline measurement is actually to create a simulated phishing campaign or a simulated phishing attack on your organization before you do any training. And what the platform, what GoldPhish allows our customers to then do is to select a number of pre-designed templates that we've done. So we've got a number of email templates that look very similar to a lot of the top brands out there that you would receive in your inbox every day. We can customize those to make them even a little bit more personalized or a little bit, geographically customized. And we then put a whole campaign together, and in that email, there'll be a phishing link or an attachment. And some of them will even lead onto quite a convincing landing page, and that will then get sent out to the organization. And then what our testing platform allows us to then do is we can then tell exactly who in your organization has opened that email. We can tell who has clicked on the link. We can even tell which of them has actually submitted their username and password into the landing page. And then from the user perspective, as soon as they get that, as soon as they click on that link, as soon as they are unsuccessful and they get phished by that test, we immediately, what we do called just-in-time training, where they'll have a landing page pop up and tell them, in a very sort of supportive fashion, listen, unfortunately this, you failed this phishing simulation. This was put together by your IT team. Not to worry, this happens to everyone. Here's a very quick video. Here's a great infographic to teach you how to avoid doing this in the future. And so it's a really, really impactful training experience, because they've just clicked on something. They may have just realized that this is now some reinforcement training to show them that actually don't worry about it. This happens a lot. It can be very convincing. Here's some good tips to avoid doing it in the future. And then that gives the training manager or the IT manager a really good understanding actually how susceptible his organization is. And getting that baseline understanding and that baseline vulnerability test at the beginning of a training program is a big wake-up call to a lot of training managers, because they can get some percentages, up in the 20s, 30% of their organization are opening phishing emails and clicking on phishing emails, and it just takes one employee to drop your company, deep in the hurt. So it's a really good method to really launch a good training program. What we realize, our methodology around training is all about raising awareness and changing behavior. And if you are just giving a once-off message, a once-off note, a once-off experience to the learners or to the employees, they may take it on board very quickly for 5-10 minutes, and then forget about it. And while they may be a little bit more knowledgeable, it's not going to change their behavior. And when it comes to cybersecurity and reducing risk to the business, it's about changing behavior. It's about getting them to do something differently than they're used to doing. It's about not opening that email. It's about not clicking on that link. It's about securing your passwords properly, creating passwords, making sure you've got different passwords for different accounts, stuff that people are lazy about because they don't care. And it's about really designing a training program that is so effective that it makes people change their behavior. We do this in a number of different ways. We've built the platform, we built our solution so it delivers training over a continuous period. From studying the marketing industry, we know that a first touch advertisement is not going to change a consumer behavior. It's not going to make somebody go and buy that product. But if they're constantly reinforced with the same advertisement and the same marketing, and they're getting surrounded by messages of that product or that need, it changes their behavior because they're constantly having that message reinforced and that need and demand reinforced. And that's what we really take into our security awareness training. We deliver continuous training over a 12-month subscription period, and that can be done in multiple training campaigns with multiple types of content, constantly being reinforced. You can have multiple knowledge assessments, multiple phishing simulations throughout the year. So continuous training is a new methodology for training. A lot of your corporates, a lot of your organizations, if they do any training at all, it's a once-off. It's once a year training. They tick that box, that's them done. But that doesn't change behavior. It doesn't actually reduce the risk. And so we provide the mechanism and the tools and all of the content to really deliver some very effective annual continuous training programs. Key to changing that behavior, key to get their message across is our content. And making sure that what we are putting across to the learner when we're trying to teach them, the materials we're putting across is understandable, it's relatable, it's as simple as possible. In the past, unfortunately, a lot of cybersecurity training and information security training has been done by the IT teams and the security teams. And these guys are technical wizards. They're amazing at what they do, but what they're not good is talking to humans. And and unfortunately, your organizations are, putting their employees through some of the most boring, technical, god awful, content and training out there because
PowerPoints.
death by PowerPoint, or an IT manager standing up and trying to explain to you the complexities of malicious software and how it attacks servers and networks. He's like, oh, stop.
Right.
So what we've really done is, and it definitely helps our approach, not having a technical background,
Right.
and Zoe coming from a strong marketing background and strong design background, we've taken a step back and we're like, how simple can we make this? And every module that we design, every subject that we discuss, everything that we try and get across, from your phishing to public Wi-Fi to how to use VPNs to how to create strong passwords, all of that is built with a cyber made simple mentality from day one. We try to get it across that, if your gran can understand it, we've done well.
Right.
And the other methodology we use in building out our content is personalization. We recognize quite early on, both from our experiences working in organizations, large multinationals, to feedback we get from customers and partners, is that trying to build culture is very, very, very different.
Yeah.
It's extremely difficult, and your large organizations are so desperate to try and change behavior through building company culture and getting people on board in the company, and it's difficult. A lot of people just aren't invested. They don't care. And when you're talking about cybersecurity, a lot of companies are trying to ram down their security policies on the employees. You
Right.
will do this, you will do this, you will do it, because it's policy, and we're enforcing policy, and you must do this. And so what we've done is we've looked at that, and we've looked at the challenge companies have in building culture because of that sort of enforcement methodology, enforcement approach. And we've tried to personalize all of our training. So instead of telling you that, you will do this because of company policy, we take an approach of trying everything that we teach, all of our modules, all of our videos, it's about the end user and protecting his or her data, protecting his home and his family and his online accounts and his banking, because there's incentive. If we try and tell you that you need to do all of this to protect the company, well, it's not my company.
Right.
It makes no difference. I get my salary at the end of the month. Doesn't matter what happens to the company. But
Right.
if I can teach you to be a lot safer online, to protect your own financial well-being and to protect your family and to protect your own online accounts and your own data, all of a sudden people start paying attention. They start taking better practices. They start securing their accounts. They start using password practices that are much better. They start avoiding those spam emails in their
Right.
personal mailboxes. And over time that behavior changes and it improves. And what happens is that same person comes to the office and starts adopting that behavior in the office, and the business has a much more reduced risk there. So we
Right.
definitely try and personalize all of our content and all of our training as much as possible with that training methodology in mind.
That's fantastic. You're doing a lot of things that are really important from a business perspective, but also I think as a founder and as a startup, I think are fantastic. Talking to your clients, understanding their needs, etc. Talk to me. So you're already in a good place right now. You seem to be growing at a pretty healthy clip. What's the plan for 2021? What do you hope to achieve in the next 12 months?
So in the next 12 months, like I mentioned, we've got a big product release coming out now for Q2. We've been working now for 14 months really to do a complete overhaul on our platform.
Okay.
We've learned from our customers and partners, studied the industry, sort of looked at competitors out there, really looked at what's missing, really looking to consolidate our offering from all of the good feedback and the bad feedback we've had, everything that we've learned really over the last few years, and we've consolidated that into really a brand new solution that we're taking out. So we're launching a new GoldPhish platform in Q2. That's going to be a game changer for us. It's a significant improvement on what we've had to date. So we're super excited about that. And our partners are excited as well. So we're certainly going to look to build on that platform. We've got a roadmap out for the next 18 months, 24 months. What we couldn't do absolutely everything that we wanted, but we've got a lot of great features in mind for the platform. We know exactly where we need to be. We now need to sort of grow our team out, grow the revenue to support a team, and grow that team out so that we can really start building on that platform and bring in some fantastic features based on everything we know about the industry now. So while we're building the platform and building the sort of software dev team really out to support that, at the same time we're constantly improving our content. We're either improving existing modules and existing training materials, or we're producing new ones, looking at potentially new subjects that are coming on the market or coming into the industry that we're aware of, new threats, new problems, and also changing best practices. The cybersecurity industry is an interesting one where it's constantly changing. The best practices and the top tips and the advice that is being given is changing on a 6-month, 12-month basis. So
Right.
your training content has to keep up with that. And so we're constantly updating it. We're constantly revising it. Customers of ours that are coming back year on year, they want to see new content that they can put in front of their employees. They don't want to see the same modules from the year before. So we have to keep on top of that as well. And in addition to improving existing modules, in addition to creating new training content, we want to start doing some geographical customization or translation projects as well. We've identified new markets that are coming up in the Middle East, in Asia, in South and Central America. And these are markets that are starting to be ready to really get into this and start spending on security awareness training. So we need to start looking at building out that material to support those markets. And that's something that we can do. But we just need the time and we need the team to do so.
Fantastic. So sorry, go ahead. I'll let you finish the thought.
Okay, and then finally, really over the next sort of 12 months is again a big focus on continuing to grow our strategic partnerships with managed service providers and managed security companies. That we very early realized that we needed to be niche. We wanted GoldPhish to be as niche as possible to allow us to really just get that wedge in the door, plant that stake in the ground. And what we looked at was security awareness training is niche. As you know, the cybersecurity industry last year was $167 billion industry, global spending on cybersecurity. Security awareness training wasn't even 1 billion. Okay, so we've gone after a very niche problem in the cybersecurity industry, and we wanted to go even further down. We wanted to get even more niche, and so our target audience really for go-to-market in all of our marketing and everything we do in our product development is really going after this MSP model and providing a platform and providing a product that the MSPs can take to market. And we've done that in a number of different ways that we're extremely attractive to the MSPs. They want to partner with GoldPhish for a number of different reasons, and that is going to allow us to scale exponentially over the next 12 to 18 months.
Fantastic. So the question I had before that's going on in my head right now is, we talked about your founding team, Sharif and Zoe. I understand you also had a couple of developers who've been with you for quite some time. Introduce them real quick also.
Sure. So we very early on in GoldPhish, we realized we wanted to pivot and have our own training platform and our own phishing platform. We essentially wanted to design the SaaS product to take to market and take all of our training on. Myself and Sharif didn't have technical backgrounds. We didn't have development backgrounds. And so very early on, we identified two world-class South African-based software developers. We brought them on to build our initial product out. So that initial platform that they built 2017, 2018, we are still using the same platform today. And we brought them on board, and before we had the capital, before we had the budget to pay them, they built the product out in probably about 10 months, the initial product, and we gave them equity in the company and brought them on board. And Hein and Marius are still with us today. They're running all software development now, which is fantastic, and they've been working in overhauling that initial product and completely redesigning and developing our new offering and our new platform that we're taking to market now in the next month.
Okay. And over the course of 2021, do you have any specific hires that you're already sort of thinking about and then that you have plans for?
For sure. We definitely need additional dev support to help Hein and Marius. We don't ever see GoldPhish growing into the hundreds of employees, but we have done extremely well to date with having very, very competent people in our different roles, and so we really see that not growing too big. But we need another great software developer. We're going to need a QA tester. We're going to need a UI UX guy to really focus on that, because UX is everything in our product and our solution. We want to grow our sales team, not only from a geographical territory sales bit, to really go out. And when I say sales, it's really more developing partners. Everything that we do from our sales approach now is not going after end customers, it's going after the MSPs. And so that's what we predominantly focus on. And so we want to get more sales teams in different territories, from Australia to Africa to Europe to the USA, and have them dedicated to growing their partner networks in those territories. And then really key for us in the success of that partner strategy is to have dedicated partner success managers or account managers. So once that partner is on board, we have somebody dedicated from GoldPhish that can really help that partner sell it. We can train up their sales teams. We can teach them about the onboarding. We can teach them how to be the cybersecurity heroes to their clients. And that has been a great strategy for us to date. We really get those partners on board, and we train them up with everything that we know. We help them sell. We provide them the marketing materials. We support them and make sure that their team is extremely well trained and supported to actually then take our product into their markets. The problem is that's all being done right now by our single sales person. Our sales director is not only trying to grow the partner network, but then support the existing partner network, advise them on the onboarding process, advise them on everything that they need and the hundreds of questions they've got about going to market. And so the sales force to really support that strategy is what we need to grow. And we want to grow an animation team as well. Our existing training team or training design team is fantastic. We've got some great training modules. We've got some very good sort of basic animation videos as well to support all of that training and support those training libraries. But really, I see us developing or growing an in-house animation team, sort of 2D animation, where we can really start putting some great stories and scenarios and some entertainment learning off our own storyboarding, and then putting that into animation videos and taking to market as well.
Fantastic. So you sort of hinted on a couple of sort of longer term ideas. You said you don't see GoldPhish becoming, 100 developer company. What is that long-term vision? Paint that for us, 3, 5, 10 years out. Where do you see this company going?
Sure. So I see, Sharif laughs about it when I talk about it, but in 5 years' time, I want GoldPhish to be the biggest security awareness training company in the world that no one's ever heard of. And it's a bizarre concept to talk about, but if we can get our partner strategy and our distribution strategy correct, the reason why we're really, really attractive to those MSPs and those large security companies is we white label. And one of the key features we've built into our platform is the ability for a full multi-tenant tiered system. So we can allow on our platform, a distributor can come in, a large global cybersecurity company can come in, and they can create distributors underneath them. Those distributors can then come onto our platform and create resellers underneath them. They can have multi-tiers of resellers, and that just scales globally, exponentially, and it can all be managed from a central console on our dashboard. And we have built that system in to allow scalability and allow the attractiveness of GoldPhish for this MSP approach. What we've also done is built in a fully customizable white label feature on the platform. So any company can come in and resell GoldPhish as their own product and their own solution. You can put your own logos, you can put your own branding, you can have your own color schemes. It's unrecognizable as a GoldPhish platform. And that allows these MSPs to confidently and effectively take it into their markets and sell it alongside their other products and services that they're selling. And we've seen really, really good feedback on that idea. We've had really good early traction with MSPs in the market to do that. And I think that's where we're going to be going in the next few years, is really focusing and laser focus on that market. And we've had some questions about that. What about your brand? Don't you want to build the GoldPhish brand out? No, what I want to do is make millions of dollars in revenue. And this is the way. There's not a lot of other companies doing that. The competitors in the space, they're brand sensitive. They've done very well. They deserve to have the strong brands that they have. But they are brand sensitive. They're not giving up their brand for anyone. And when you've got some very successful managed service companies, or you've got professional service companies like your big four, and you've got big cyber insurance companies that want to offer services to their hundreds of thousands of clients and policyholders, these companies are huge multinationals that their brand is very important. And if they're offering services and offering products, it needs to be in their brand and their logo. And so that's where GoldPhish can come in. And what it allows these huge companies to do is, instead of needing to acquire a company, they can just partner with GoldPhish, and they can brand it however they want. They can sell it as their own product. As far as the world knows, they are now offering world-class cybersecurity awareness training at no cost to the company. We manage it. We sit behind the curtain. We run the platform. We make sure that everything is running. We make sure that all the content is world-class. We're constantly updating everything. We manage the full solution from behind the curtain. They sell it and put it up front. And that's really where we see us sort of growing over the next few years.
Fantastic. So from an investor perspective, should they expect to be with you for the long haul, and maybe in the future an IPO and going public? Is that the idea?
No, I wouldn't. I would say, I mean, our exit strategy is really, I would say, about 3 to 4, maybe 5 years out. I think once we grow to a certain size and we grow to a certain valuation, there has been a lot of acquisitions in our industry, in our niche industry, over the last few years. The demand for security awareness training is growing exponentially. And once the larger companies realize that, and they realize how much money they are leaving on the table for GoldPhish to take, an acquisition is going to be very, very quick there. So whether it is a cyber insurance company that we partner with to train up their hundreds of thousands of global customers, but they're having to pay GoldPhish for that, whether it's a global cybersecurity company that wants to offer this as a product along their technical products and can see huge revenue for that for them down the line, we will probably only survive 2 years max in a partnership deal with one of these large companies before they see the money that's left on the table, and we get acquired very quickly. So that we really see our ability to sort of grow our model and show potential partners, this is how much revenue you can actually make, and this is how much you're losing by partnering with us. We see very, very, very quick acquisition through that way.
Got it. Got it. Perfect. Thank you so much. We covered a lot of territory today, so I really appreciate you telling us about your thinking and about sort of how you're envisioning the future for GoldPhish. So thank you for sharing that story, and I really appreciate you taking the time out to sort of tell us that.
Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, it was really, really good chatting. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, talk soon.
Thank you. Cheers.